with any group, you will find splinter groups going off, allying, forming. I certainly don't, using Americanisms, I certainly don't buy the idea of large numbers of Palladians forming any sort of alliance with other reptilian groups simply because they've been at war with them for too long. People generally think of the Pleiadians as the good guys and the reptilians as the bad guys. I think what I would say is that the Pleiadians are particularly warlike. So the Pleiadians are a race of people who have off and on fought reptilian groups.
Because when you are aware that it isn't a war with Russia that's going to cause you serious problems, it is the potential war with races from other worlds. When you know that, everything else becomes much less important.
If you ignore the Velon for a minute, all the other races that exist within the universe are basically benevolent towards us. And the other side of it is that none of the races out there have developed weapons. All this hype about aliens turning up and blasting us off the planet is a physical impossibility because they don't actually have weapons.
Well, and they're not physical either, anyway, right? So.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I suppose theoretically they could use energy weapons, which would have an effect on the people. They haven't developed these kinds of weapons. They just don't exist. There's all these myths about the universal wars and galactic wars and all that sort of stuff. It's just the Velon channeling material to confuse people. This is one of the biggest problems we have on Earth at the moment, is that there are a growing number of people interested in other races, what's going on either on Earth or outside of the Earth. And into this, the Velon have stepped with these channeled messages, which are deliberately designed to mislead people in the wrong direction. Because again, don't forget, the stated aim is to take over the Earth and only leave something like 500 million people on the planet.
As their slaves.
Yes. So everything the Velon say is designed to mislead. I mean, again, I've gone into this in depth of channeled messages and all the rest of it. There are over 4,000 races recorded through channeled messages, and every single one of them is Velon. They call themselves anything they like. People will believe it. You know, Arcturians, Andromedans, Zetas, whatever you want to call them, all of them are Velon origin. I mean, somebody sent me a website yesterday, in fact last night, I think, sent me an email. What did I think of it? And it was a website supposedly written, it was channeled material, supposedly written by somebody calling themselves Sekhmet, who was married to some character who called himself Sananda Kos. And if you read this website, basically this Sananda character claims to be basically every single religious leader there's ever been in history.
Yeah, how convenient.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as it's all Velon material, because they're trying to mislead. They're trying to make this Sananda character has gone through numerous changes through the last number of years. I mean, he started off as Lord Sananda, and then became Archangel Sananda, and now he's the Christ consciousness Sananda. So, but unfortunately, people fall for it. And this is one of the biggest reasons why we missed our deadline on the 21st of December, is because so many people believed this Velon rubbish, were prepared to listen to it and want it to happen. And what they've done is to keep the Velon around the Earth.
That grid is not the natural grid
of the Earth. That's not the ley lines, that is an energetic overlay. When you die, i.e. your physical body ceases to exist, your soul doesn't go back to source. It wants to, gets caught in that grid. It is struck with a huge amount of electromagnetic energy, which makes you forget, and then your soul, for want of a better word, I use the word soul, is put back into another body. And only sometimes when the process fails do you have what we call memories of past lives. Time and time and time again, souls are recycled on this planet. That's why that guy there stands there with the sword, because that's their domain. You're not getting out. That's a prison. This is a prison planet. I'm sorry, it's not a nice thing to say, but that's my view.
What we decided to do was to put into place what the Akasha calls the human plan. And all this plan really means is that we would live a series of lifetimes, in other words reincarnate into physical bodies, in order to learn and experience what it is to be human, and how to work with the planet in ways which were non-destructive either to the planet or to ourselves. And this plan we put into place roughly 7,000 years ago. And with that came a finite limit. We only allowed ourselves roughly the 7,000 years. This was so that because the outcome of this plan was unknown, the Earth herself insisted on a finite limit in case we couldn't find our way back, in which case then we would probably have to start again. If that's what the planet chose to do, or we would start again on another planet somewhere else within the universe. And so this is what we've been doing for the past 7,000 years. And this is why the ancient Egyptian calendars, the Chinese calendars, the Celtic calendars, and the Mayan calendar all end in 2012. It's because that is the end of the 7,000 year period we set ourselves. Because for this 7,000 year period, we have become subhuman. Quite deliberately so, in order so that it was by breaking ourselves down into our lowest component, we hoped then to become more physical and more interactive with the Earth, so we could learn how to get ourselves back to what the Earth considers to be a full human being, that is, the whole soul within the body. And so for 7,000 years what we have become is a divided soul. Within the physical body, the bodies that we are used to, is we only, in any one lifetime, we only ever incorporate something like 1/4 of the total soul. So what we have is a physical aspect of the soul, and what people generally call the higher self, which is the non-physical aspect of the soul, and that makes up about 3/4 of the total soul. So what we do in between lifetimes is we converse, as it were, consult with the higher aspect of the soul to give our next incarnation a series of goals, a series of challenges, so that we learn from it. And this is a process we've come to know by another Sumerian word, which is karma. Now, I know there are all sorts of interpretations to the word karma and the process of karma, but as far as the Akashic is concerned, the word karma means knowledge, and it means nothing more than that. And for 7,000 years what we've been doing is to live a series of lifetimes gaining knowledge in order to become human again. And this is where the time frame runs out, is this 2012 date. It's not actually 2012, it's just the calendar's come to an end at 2012. But if you look at the Mayan calendar, for example, built within it are a series of epochs. And each epoch marks the end of one phase of life and the beginning of a new phase of life. And the last epoch date ends on the 29th of October 2011, which ties in very closely with the Akashic date, because the Akashic states towards the end of 2011 is when we must, if you like, complete the process, our knowledge gathering process, and bring the whole of the consciousness, the whole of the soul back into the physical body. And along the way we've made all sorts of mistakes, made all sorts of wrong decisions, but that 2012 end date is still the end date. We can't change that. And this is where we are at the moment, is in 1996 a new energy was connected to the planet which was essentially there to fuel up this process of change that most people feel that we're undergoing.